Shalom, beloved family. It's your girl Sophia, Spiritual Light, and this is kind of like a wrap-up message. You know, is a lot that we have been through in this last week, and hadn't even been a week, but I mean, really, it was because this all kind of popped off with that whole Tory Lanez and Meg the Boy Horse situation and the verdict or whatever. And that really started the whole divide and conquer um, strategy or contract that we were all bound to via the Willie Lynch letter. And so now, once you understand that that's a contract that we were bound to, then you can start to see why things happened the way that they were and with the way that they did. And so now that we have, successfully removed that contract and canceled it and nullified it and literally burned it. I burned mine, like I said, which I'm typically not into writing, burning, and releasing, but I'm glad I kept an open mind about that because this was a situation wherein the physical document did need to be burned in order to physically cancel the contract due to the nature of the entities involved, meaning if you're curious about the entities that were involved in the execution of that contract, you can go to the Testament of Solomon, and it's the wind energy that was the they say Arabia, but I'm anyway. That's neither here nor there. The wind energy that would make it so that the people couldn't. The wind was would this wind that guy's name was whipping so hard that if the wind touched you, you would just die. It was too much to withstand, too much to bear. Um, that was one of the entities, and the other entity was this water um entity that was the son of the big guy down there. And this particular entity is what was on Pharaoh to harden his heart so that he, after the Israelites had been gone for 3 days. Remember in the book of Jasher, it says they had been gone 3 days before Pharaoh came after them. And that was the entity that was working on Pharaoh's heart so that it would be so hardened that it would that when the water when the sea closed behind them, they were that entity was trapped in the sea. And so I also understand now the timing of when things happen. That was a third day after the contract was originally executed on the 25th. So not counting the 25th, the third day, um well, the start of the fourth day when the contract, typically you give people, if you have an arbitration clause, I mean, this goes into a bunch of stuff, but if you have an arbitration clause, you have 3 days to contest um the arbitration clause, which is basically what we did. So if I can give you a timeline breakdown of this scenario, just so everybody can be clear about what's going on, that the Willie Lynch letter was written on, was delivered on December the 25th, 1712 or something like that. And when you have an arbitration clause, what it is you have 3 days to contest the fact that you don't want to you don't want to have this contract be ratified essentially, and you want to um uh give the opportunity for arbitration. And so my first message on Monday was us declaring that we were not going to be bound by the terms of this contract because we thought it to be fraudulent. As the true inheritors of the temple, we did not agree to the terms of the contract because those two entities, that wind entity and that water entity, were the entities that were holding up the cornerstone of the temple. And so, because they were holding the cornerstone, they believed that they were entitled to the temple. Now, I didn't know any of this. This is all, Monday morning quarterbacking. I had no idea what was going on. I just, again, as I mentioned over and over and over again, nothing I say out of my mouth is my own words. I say what the entities tell me to say. I do what I'm told to do. That's just how I am, and I'll explain a little bit more about that at the end. So, anybody who thinks that my words are my own don't understand how this thing is done. When I was doing the prayers, those were my words. I haven't been doing prayers. So the words that come out are not my words. I haven't even been doing lessons because those are the words of someone else. These are the words that are given to me to say, and I just follow instructions. I keep telling people this. I don't think it's really an understood topic. I follow instructions. One thing I can do is follow instructions. If the order is given, just like with the operation, the order was given to put the call out to call make the call the play for the Operation Tiny Toons. I mean Operation Elvira, Tiny Toons Offensive. The order was put out for that, and I just put the word out. Look, this is the order. These are the call. This is the play that was called. I'm calling the play because even though the words are not my words that I'm saying, I still take responsibility for the words that come out, even though they're not my words, because that's how I am. So back to this thing with the temple. So the wind energy and the water, the that sea energy believed that they were entitled to the temple because they had been holding up the cornerstone, and therefore they believed they were entitled to it. So when I came out and said no, the daughters of Zion are reclaiming our inheritance, that was a huge problem. And so from that point, we were on the clock, and a bunch of crazy stuff nobody would believe happened. Nobody would believe if I told you. I'm not even going to go into all the stuff. I'm just going to just say that it wasn't like once I called that play. First of all, in order to be able to call that play, I was all up and down the East Coast. I mean, I had just gotten back. Had to get back in my car and go back up the East Coast to be in a certain position. It's a lot of stuff. It's not like I'm sitting here and I'm giving y'all messages and this stuff is like dropping into my lap. No, it's mostly doing extremely uncomfortable things that don't make any sense. And this is the kind of stuff that Levi is talking about where when you're on a mission, you have no idea what exactly is going on. And so anyway, I had to go halfway up the coast to be at a certain place where Sarah Hell was. And then I came back down to deliver the message, but I couldn't do it. It had just had to be at a certain time in a certain place. Then once I, stated our claim that we were claiming the temple and all of that, then I had to, think about what that meant. So then that's more conversations with my team. And it's another thing. I have a team of physical people. It's not me delivering these messages and me fighting these whatever by myself. It's a team of us. And in no way will I reveal my team because I will not have them attacked. I agreed in my covenant with the Most High to be the face of what was going on. I agreed to that. And I'm not going to reveal my team unnecessarily so that they have to go through what I go through. I take the brunt of it because I agreed to do so. And I will keep it like that. And that shouldn't be a problem for anybody. I'm just telling you all, this is how it works. I have a team. My team is my team. We do what we do, how we do it. All of us contribute to it. I just come out and be the face of it. And that's what I agreed to as a public facing person that I've been. Um so, so then once I get back from the location I had to go to get another part of the message, then I deliver the message about taking back the temple, then we're on the clock. The What happens in an arbitration is that you know you give an opportunity for the um you present your facts and the opposite team presents their facts, and then the arbitrator, the cosmic arbitrator in this case, which would be the mother and father, they determine who is right in a situation. Now, if I had let my vibration get low, if I had responded negatively to anything if I had because I didn't know what was any of this was going on. I just knew that okay, well, since I don't know what's going on, I don't know how this is working. I'm not sure what the case is. I decided to maintain my spiritual connection in the same way. So I did everything I would normally do. It was like I couldn't, like get on the prayers the way that I wanted to, but but it wasn't that I was just it was I couldn't do everything the same, but my mind didn't change about okay, I'm going to get on the prayers, okay, I'm going to do this. Um we know we fast on Thursdays. I still fasted. I did everything the same because I didn't know what direction this thing was coming from, and I didn't want to reveal to the entities that I had that I knew who they were. And so I didn't want them to know that I knew who they were because I changed my schedule. Number one, number two, I didn't want to put anybody else in jeopardy by changing my schedule. So I maintained my schedule the way that it was. And then I got the message about, the necessity of the masculine and the feminine paired together. And that was another part of it. I had to show to the cosmic moderators, the cosmic arbitrators, that we were not going to go back into this polarization of the spirit. Um, because, as I mentioned, the polarization of the spirit is what got us into this thing, overindulging on the mother, overindulging on the father, overdoing it on one side, overdoing it on the other side, and being that I'm looking at the results of that on both sides, overdoing it on the side of the mother, overdoing it on the side of the father. I have always maintained that it's a balance. It's you can't have one without the other because that's what the Shema says. The Lord our God is one. So that means that if there's a mother and there's a father, they're one. They move as one. And one thing about our people is that I don't a lot of us have never seen a healthy relationship due to that Willie Lynch letter contract. We've never seen a healthy relationship. So if in a healthy relationship, the man and the woman, they don't want to be apart from each other. That's healthy. They they spend time together, and even if it's not talking and doing stuff together, they still spend time together. They long to be with each other. That's healthy, not that this animosity and all of this stuff. And I understand that, like I said, a lot of our people have never seen a healthy relationship, and so we think that for some reason that the father hates the mother and the mother hates the father, and they're fighting against each other instead of saying, I don't want my mother and my father to be separated. Just I want the God I serve to be one. I want them to work together. I don't want them to be like, man, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and they're always missing each other. Because what kind of relationship is that where you are trying to cultivate something with the person that you love and you're never able to quite be with them, because the man is off doing this thing and the woman is off doing her thing, and they're never able to quite get on the same vibration. So for the sake of my spiritual, father, my spiritual mother, man, I want them to be together, and the Bible says the God we serve is one God. Honor thy mother and thy father, and not that I'm quoting the scriptures, but that's what they want. Why would they put it in there? And then we have it in the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Torah. In the New Testament, Yahweh Shai says, um, what are the two greatest commandments? Honor thy mother, or serve the Lord thy God, which from the beginning we said is the mother and the father is one, blah, 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 with all thy body, mind, heart, soul, whatever. I can't remember all of it. And then what's the other one? Love thy brother as thyself. So if I'm going to love my brethren as myself, I'm going to want them to have what I have. Which means I not necessarily we got to be together all the time, but I'm going to want them to have the peace of being um in a happy relationship. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to want for my brethren. And so, and I want to want them to be happy and to be, have their other half that they can be one with. Because that's what it says, you cleave to your wife and all of this stuff. I mean, we have all of these examples in the Bible. And again, if you don't believe the Bible is true and all of that, if you look at any other books, it says the same thing. It's not just in the Bible. Like I said, I'm not a scholar in this area. I don't know everything. I don't have the precepts. I'm not as smart as people think I am, I guess. All I know is when I get here, the spirit gives me what to say and it draws from the things I have reference to. And since I know the Bible and accept it to be true, um then they know they can draw from that on me. So that's how that works. So so in order to prove that I received the message, and like I said, I didn't receive that message for myself. It was a live stream, and I was like, oh, this is the part that we're going to miss if we don't get this right. And so I delivered the message based on what I got from the other input. And then here comes this huge battle, which I don't even know is coming, completely blindsides me. And I I just I just do what I'm told. I had started this candle and, called in particular archangel and did these things and then, the information comes out about this letter. And then I'm like, okay, we have to write, burn, and release, but we have to know who the entities are. Then we don't want to just release the entities to let them run ramshot around the planet, causing destruction amongst the children of light or anybody else. And so we redirect those entities to rebuild our temple, the temple that we are. And because the whole thing about the temple, I mean, I think there's a physical temple, absolutely, but they also think that they own us because of that contract in that letter. They are the cornerstone of our personalities too, because of that contract. And so we had to let them know you're not the cornerstone of us personally. You're not the cornerstone of the physical temple. You're not the cornerstone of anything. You're not nothing. You know, Solomon demanded that you rebuild. You brought you in to be the foundation for the temple, not to take over the temple. Period. One way or another. And these things been taken over us. They've been. It's obvious how they operate. I mean, I'm not going to go into that because I don't really want to. You know, I don't want to go into that. But it's obvious how they operate. If you go back and you read that letter and you read what those demons can do, you could figure out how they operate. So we had to redirect them to do something so that they always, never again are they going to be allowed to run ramshot. We're not going to forget this. We're not going to forget this. We're going. It's time in memoriam at the time to put this into some kind of final testament or whatever. It's going to be like the number one thing. We're not going to let this happen again. This is not going to happen again to our people or anybody else. Nobody deserves to have the demons as the cornerstone of their existence. Nobody deserves that. And yet that's what's been happening. So, you know, so anyway, the whole battle it comes and it's raging and we have no idea if we're going to win. And finally we realized, okay, we did defeat this entity. We were successful in our request, our arbitration. We proved that we were going to be balanced and that we weren't going to go off to one side or another. And we were going to walk the middle path. We proved that we could do that and that we were willing to do that and willing to take the necessary inputs to make that happen. And so we were awarded our request, and the other entities were denied their request, and so we won the battle. And it's very, very important for me to explain that to you guys because at this time now you may notice that your powers get turned back on. What does that mean for you? How do you manage that kind of thing? If you notice, this is what I mean by that. Or here's an example of what happened to me that I can tell. I went to return the rental car and I pulled up to the gas station to put gas in it and I opened up a fortune cookie that I had sitting in the car. We had gone to this Chinese whatever place um a few days ago, and there was one fortune cookie left. So I opened it up and it said don't panic. And I was like, well, that's an odd message. So I'm trying to pump gas, and for whatever reason I couldn't get my car to work. And I was like, okay, well, this thing did just say don't panic, so I'm not going to panic. And it turns out I was pressing the cancel button instead of pressing the credit button, and because the buttons aren't labeled and whatever. So I didn't panic, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. And then I take the car back, and the guy comes back and he's like, "Ugh, that car is a mess. I would have charged you a cleaning fee, but the guy said not to, this and that." And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I did not know. I did not know. I didn't, because they didn't make it a point to say, look how this car is. Make sure you bring it back just like this, which is what they, if they wanted me to bring it back, they should have done. They had a sign, but I didn't know what that sign meant, because all that was in the car was a little bit of dirt. Like you could get it up with a vacuum. It wasn't like filthy. It was just normal wear and tear that you would have to clean anyway. So obviously that was unacceptable. So the guy was like, "Well, if it was up to me, I'd charge you a cleaning fee, but the other guy said not to charge you a cleaning fee, and next time don't bring that car like that. Do you rent from here all the time?" I was like, "No, sir." He said, "Okay, well, just look at it as a first time gift then." And I was like, "Okay, thank you very much." Again, I didn't panic. In the midst of that situation, I didn't panic. So then I get to um, Thursday morning, and all this stuff starts happening, and I'm like, oh my, no, the first thing I woke up, first thing I thought when I woke up, okay, I got to put some money on my electric. And I said, well, no, before I went to bed, I said, well, I'm just going to put something on there, and I'll worry about my storage tomorrow. I didn't know all this stuff was going to happen. I had made plans and everything else. So I said, you know what, I'll just worry about my electric, my storage tomorrow. It's not going to be a big deal. So, I'll scrape it together, because yesterday was the last day I had to pay it. And so, um, we're supposed to go to the bank, and then all this stuff starts happening, and we were at the bank, and I was like, no, I have to cancel this. This is more important. I'll just come back to the bank later. So we're on our way back from the bank to my sister's gonna drop me off at the house, and I'm like, I gotta deal with this. I don't know what's going on, because I didn't. It was just kind of like thrown on me early in the morning, and my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this," and I was like, "Well, what happened?" She said, "Well, I got my Social Security payment early, and for some reason they didn't take out my what is it called, Medicaid or Medicare or whatever. So that was like an extra $170. That's exactly what I needed to pay my storage. I mean, exactly. I was like, oh, mom, that was for me. She's like, what? I said, yeah, the angels did that for me, because I needed that $170 to pay my storage. And she was like, well, go ahead and take it. It's in there. I'm like, all praises to the Most High, man. I never panicked. If I had panicked at any point and let my frequency drop, there would have been no way to get through that whole battle without, it just it would not have worked, because I would have been worried. I would have been concerned. I would have been this. I wasn't nothing. I never let my frequency drop. Like and I'm telling you, they threw everything. I can't even put into words how much stuff got thrown at me to make me drop my frequency, and I did not drop my frequency. I mean, I could go into detail to other stuff that I'm just thinking about now. They threw everything at me to get me to drop my frequency, and they know they couldn't attack me in a linear way, so they went in a total zigzag way all around the bend, like, all of this stuff trying to get me to drop my frequency, which I never did. I never dropped my frequency this whole time. I kept it high. And so, anyway, so I paid my storage and everything was fine. And, when I finally started to decompress late last night, I woke up in the middle of the night. I had an extreme headache, which I still have. And I want to talk about this too, about the whole concept of you getting your spiritual gifts. I woke up with an extreme headache in the middle of the night, and I took some aspirin, I drank some water, and I laid back down. And then when I got up this morning, I still had the same headache, still extreme. And it's still pretty extreme right now. I just had some broccoli and I feel a little bit better. But I had extreme headache, extreme. And the thought came that what if my overself had to come in to help me with this battle? Because if y'all listen to me read that letter, there's no way I could have made it through that letter. I have no idea how I got through that letter because I had never read it before. And I had no idea what was in it. I was emotionally, it was more than I could personally handle. I know that I could not handle reading that letter. I could never handle reading it again. Like that's how emotional that was for me. So there's no way that I could have done that for myself. So the thought came in is like, what if your over self came in and had to help you, get through the rest of this stuff? And I was just like, wow, if that's what that's like. And then and the reason why I thought that is because when I did the spiritual cell phone, I called on an archangel, which was a huge mistake. I mean, I didn't know anything. I hadn't done any spiritual work. It was really not good. And what happened to me was, because you don't never call an archangel. Good God Almighty, unless you really need one, don't call one. Um, so what happened to me after I did the spiritual cell phone experiment is that I got really sick. I started throwing up. I had this headache. I couldn't get out the bed all day and the light was bothering me and I was really really sick because when you call an archangel, they're going to come. They come. There's no doubt about that. They will come, especially I guess for me. So, I was really really sick. I mean, really sick. And I recognize this headache as being that kind of headache where, I have had a few headaches in the past few weeks, which I wish I had wrote them down because then I could see if this was, the same kind of thing because it may have been, but um, this one that I have right now is really extreme. So I have some healing incense that I burned, and like I said, I had some broccoli, and I use my magnesium. I have some magnesium spray. That magnesium sometimes, if you're deficient, it helps with that. So I have some magnesium spray that I sprayed on, and it was kind of like it was kind of like how do I describe this? It's kind of like I know that there's no way I could have gotten through yesterday without something coming to physically walk me through the rest of the day because by the time I had got through the morning and just all of the emotional trauma that was occurred with that. There's no way I could have gotten to the point where I'm writing this stuff down, I'm reading it, I'm able to function, normally. It had to be, some version of me. And I had said this, they think they're fighting us, they're not fighting us, they're fighting a version of us. And so that version of myself must have been called down to assist. And the aftermath is of that type of experience is, for me, since I'm an earth person, is this physical headache that I soon will go away at some point and I'll be able to function. But I am going to spend most of my day in bed. And the sister did call me and tell me, I'm getting the message that you're going to need to rest tomorrow. And I was like, I had already planned it. Don't worry about me. I ain't trying to do nothing. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm really not trying to do anything. I'm going to have to rest because of how much pain that I'm in, as far as this headache is concerned. And like my body, I feel like for the last I would say since Christmas Day, I feel like I just been fighting and literally fighting in my sleep and I would wake up and my body would just be like in pain and it would just be so intense and I'm like, man, I don't know what is going on because mind you, I didn't know any of this. This was all just kind of like, revealed to me, as this stuff is happening, as this stuff is going on, I'm finding out, oh, this is what it is. And the reason why it has to be done like that for us is because if they must have some kind of monitoring device for our brains or our vibrations, because a lot of people have such a low vibration. If they reveal to you that what is going to happen, then the infernal entities can get in there and mess it up. And so this is why I was talking about. if you start to notice your powers come back. This is one you know warning that I not warning, piece of advice, that I would give as coach. Um Number one, please find you some time to meditate every day and really listen to your breath as you exhale. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, and listen to your breath. That is going to be the number one key for communicating with the mother, the father, and the other entities is through the breath, sending your messages out through the breath. Hearing what the messages that are coming out through the inhale, but especially listening to the exhale. Like that is the message that you're sending out. And if you want to get your answers, you have to have, that message encoded into you somehow. And listening to your exhale is how you encode those messages into. So, I can't personally do like an hour a day of meditation or anything like that, but I do meditate in the morning when I get up. The first thing I do is I lay in my bed and I listen to my breath, for a certain amount of time, until I get up. And then I try to do it before I go to bed so that I can get my mind, ready for the next day, and so that's going to be really, really key. And the other really key thing is again keeping your frequency up. There will be no Jacob's trouble. That is when I say that is super dead. We put that thing in its grave. It's not even possible now. It's not even possible. Before they had a chance to bring it back, but we canceled the contract. That's the whole point. The contract is canceled. There's nothing that they can do about that. We canceled the contract, and so keep your mind at ease and know that the whole thing is don't panic when things start to look wild. The angels are out there. I mean, I had forgotten about, I mean, especially once we started doing, I'd forgotten about the storage thing, and I was like, whatever it is, I'll worry about that later, because I had this huge issue with this this letter and all this stuff coming up right in front of me. I couldn't stop and worry about that. I just it was, but the angels, they have your back. Your spiritual guides, your team, your guardian angel, your overself, even, they have your back. And so don't panic. You know, there will be no Jacob's trouble. Don't panic. When things are like, looking kind of crazy, you will start to see stuff pop up for you. And if you've been doing the spirit, and the third thing, for the love of God, please do your shadow work. Oh my God. This I just makes me want to cry. So much of this could have been avoided if people really dealt with their shadow. Because people, some people don't want to deal with the negative side of their lives and really deal with their shadow. You are really causing problems for people. I mean, it's a lot of people who have shadow work that they need to do. And let me just put it this way. If I had not done my shadow work, which I've been doing I didn't know that's what it was called, but a long time ago, I heard someone say, in one of the motivational, because I used to listen to all those motivational courses and all of that, the sales courses and everything. I used to be really into that. Um, I heard someone say that something along the lines of, um, you know, something like your life is what you imagine it is. And so if you, like I told y'all the other day, if you've had bad experiences with people, you have to go back and relive those experiences so that they have happy endings. You know what I mean? Like, my old man always says that that's a fairy tale, but that's how you have to give every story a fairy tale. You have to give every story in your life a fairy tale ending. And I've gone back and given all of my stories fairy tale endings. So, for example, there was this guy that I used to date, and if I had not dealt with the whole situation with him and how things happened and all of that, and gone back and in my mind given that a fairy tale ending, not so that he could come back and try and get back with me or anything like that, but just so that if I encountered someone who looked like him, which I have in this walk encountered someone who looked like him, I would not automatically um, discredit what that person was saying because they look like someone who hurt me. And I actually have two examples of that, but I'm not that's personal. I'm not going to get into it, but just know that if I had not gone back and given that story a happy ending. I did this a long time ago because I wanted to move on in my life. I decided I wanted to be the type of person who did not hold something against someone who did not do that thing to me. And so the only way to do that to make sure I did not hold something against someone who did not actually do the thing to me is that the people who did the things to me, I had to go back and forgive them and relive that experience and clear that out so that when I ran into someone who did look like them, it wouldn't trigger me into a negative response. That's the work of that. And so if you have negative things that you haven't dealt with, negative situations, things where you failed that you didn't deal with, or like for example, I always talk about my business. If I hadn't gone back and given the fact that my business completely failed and I landed flat on my face, you know, if I hadn't gone back and given that a happy ending where it was like, well, if that hadn't happened, there's no way I would be able to walk with the Most High and the Holy Mother the way that I am. If I had not given that a happy ending, I wouldn't be here at all. That was a huge test for me because I was holding on to that, and I just said, I can't hold on to this anymore. I have to accept what happened the way that it happened. And I have to just, like I always say, even if it was my fault, it was my fault. I still accept responsibility. That's what I always accept responsibility for my actions. And if I can't make things right away, it's always in my mind that as soon as I get the opportunity to make something right, I'm going to make it right. That's me. You know, that's how you deal with your shadow. If it was something that I did wrong and I can't go back and apologize to the person, if I ever get the opportunity to make something right with another person, then I'm going to try and make it right, which is why I always apologize to people if I offend them or whatever the case may be, because I know that sometimes it's not me. It's something that someone who looks like me or talks like me or acts like me does that really triggered and caused this whole issue. And and I apologize for that person because I would rather that person to have closure, even if it's at the even if it's at the words, the utterance of my mouth, than for my brother or my sister to carry around all of this pain and all of this suffering because other people wouldn't say sorry. I don't care about saying sorry. I mean it. When I say it, I sincerely apologize. I sincerely apologize. I don't want anybody to be upset with me. I don't want anybody to think that I have anything against them. It's just I have to do what the spirit tells me to do, and if I have to come back and apologize for that later, that's what I have to do. I have to come back and apologize for that later. And anybody can think however they want to think about it, but this is what the spirit gave me to do. I can't do nothing else. I can't do anything else but what the spirit gave me to do. And I understand that the spirit gave everybody something to do. And so I do that with everybody. Don't and when I hear something come out of somebody's mouth that I disagree with, I will simply say, "Oh, I disagree, but I still support." And if you look at the way that I carry myself, it's not illegitimate. This is how I am. This is how I am. Even if I disagree with you, even if I have a falling out with you, I've had many a falling out with one of my friends. Matter of fact, I think I mentioned this. I had a dream where one of my friends was yelling and screaming and everything at me in my dream. In my dream state, these demons were trying to get me to have my frequency drop, and they couldn't even do it in my dream state because as she was yelling and screaming and going off on me, I never said a word. I never said a word. I never said a word one way or I never said a word because even in my dream state, I understood that this is what was necessary for her to heal. And I just sat back and I took it. And I will at any time sit back and take somebody yelling and screaming at me, especially if it's a brother or a sister. At any moment, I will take it because if me sitting back and taking this yelling and screaming so that you can get it out of your system, so that you can heal from it, I'll take it. You know, I'll give it to the Most High and say, look, the brother and sister gave this to me. I know that it's not mine, but I know that they needed to do it. And so I give it to the Most High and I give it to the mother and I let them deal with it because I know it's not me. I know that I can take it and I do take it and it's no problem. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want my people to be suffering. I'm tired. When I say I just don't want no more innocent people to be hurt. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing how much pain our people are in. I'm tired. I'm not tired for myself because I can take it. I'm tired for my people. Just the pain and the suffering is it's too much. And I just said I would do whatever it takes so that our people did not have to continue to be in this pain and this suffering. And I mean that. I mean it. I don't want our people to suffer. I don't want our people to suffer. There's no need for bloodshed. There's no need for suffering. There's no need for attacks. It's no need for it. It's no need for it. Now, like I said, I did have to stay claim and I did have to put that anger out there, so that these things knew that we were serious. We were emotionally invested in our freedom and our release from bondage. We're emotionally invested in that. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm not emotionally invested in our people's freedom because I am emotionally invested in it. At the same time, stuff comes out a certain way and people disagree with it. I understand that too. But I can tell you one thing. This is the message I was given to deliver. This is what I was told to do, and I'm just going to take care of it. And I know that it's a little bit weird, and difficult for maybe people to wrap their mind around, which is why I wanted to explain this. So the last thing I want to talk about is my name. I've talked about this before, but it seems like there might be some new people listening or whatever. And so I'll say this again. In 2016, when I first started studying anthroposophy, um, I took on the name Sophia, and I was affiliated with the Hoteps. So I took on the name Hotep Sophia. I've been known by that basically since 2016 because I was a political commentator and I would go on people's shows and I would talk about politics, conservative politics in the black community. That's what I did, and my name was Hotep Sophia. And when I decided to separate myself from Hotep uh, uh, culture due to the fact that, um, well, number one, there was no spiritual base in Hotepism. Um, Despite using a spiritual figure in their name, there was no spiritual basis, number one. Number two, um, I was no longer affiliated with politics, so I had to remove myself from the political sphere because I realized that it was all fake and I wasn't going to take no part in perpetuating a fake thing. I just wasn't going to take no part in it. Third, I had an issue with the whole concept of this Bitcoin being a legitimate um, form of monetary exchange. I had a huge problem with that because I don't believe that is true. And fourth, um, what was the fourth thing? Well, those were the three major things. There was one more thing. But really, when I removed myself from politics, I had to remove the fact that I was representing the Hoteps because I wasn't representing conservative. And oh, I know the fourth thing. Conservative black people were completely out of touch with reality, and what was really going on. They were the first ones that were kind of like, yeah, we can vote our way out of this. And I was like, you guys have lost you just saw what happened with this last thing. Now you want to keep telling us that the only way out is to keep like voting? Absolutely not. No, no. I had decided shortly after inauguration that voting was not the answer, and whatever anybody had been telling me about voting being the answer was a damn liar, and I wasn't going to be a part of that and a part of the culture of the conservative commentators. Period. I was out of that, and all of that. And so I still had my name Sophia because in my family, you take the name of your mother. Um, Usually it's not the exact same name, but very few people knew the name Sophia, so I didn't think that it would be a huge deal to use that name because I was taking the name of my earthly mother. I was taking the name of my mother, my holy mother. You know, just like my name and my mom's name, my grandmother's name, my oldest daughter and my middle daughter, we all have a name that starts with the same letter. That's what we did. We have a very matriarchal family, and so that's where the women run this family. That's how it's been like that for a very long time, and so it is customary that you take on the name of your mother. It's very customary. And so that's what I was doing. I was taking on the name of my mother. And then when I came on this side of the walk and I was like, well, I wanted to be clear that I am the child of light and spirit. So that I saw the term spiritual light, I knew that was for me. That was the exact um, you know, a word for me. And the way that I look at it is that my name is Sophia because I'm a female, so I'm going as because I incarnated in this cycle as a female, then I'm going to be more like my mother. I'm going to have more of her qualities. It doesn't mean that I don't have my father's qualities, but I'm going to have more of her qualities. And therefore, it makes sense to maintain her name. I'm not changing my name. My name is Sophia Spiritualite. I'm not changing that. That's because in this incarnation cycle as a child of my mother, a child of spirit and light, I am of the Sophia. you know and everybody can be Sophia. I'm not saying that I'm the only one. I would never say anything like that. I don't know if that was implied somehow in anything that I said or whatever, but just to be clear, all of the daughters of Zion are all Sophia. The father looks at us the same way he looks at his wife. That's the whole point. I mean, I think that goes over a lot of people's head. The reason the Father looks at us, daughters of Zion, differently than the gods of men, as I describe it, is because he looks at us like his wife. He gives us the same love that he gives his wife. And so to reject the love of the Father as a as the as the daughters of Zion, as the Sophia on this earth, it's very it's it doesn't go together. It's like it's a big great divide. It's a huge. You just need both parts. Let me just put it that way. It's in the same way the mother has a special place in her heart for her sons. Now, nobody is ever going to talk about this. I know they're not because it's not in any books. This is not in any books. But it only makes sense that if the father sees the daughters of Zion as his wife, then the mother would see the gods of men as her husband. She would treat them with the same respect that she treats her husband, because that's what the yin and the yang is. The drop of the woman is in the drop of the woman is in the man, and the drop of the man is in the woman, and it surrounds us. The Father surrounds us. It doesn't mean that we're not connected with our mother, because we are our mother. But our Father surrounds us. He sends the angels around us to protect us. And it's the same thing with the gods of men, our brothers. They're connected with the Father, because they are the father, but they are surrounded by the mother, and that's why the disconnect is not understanding how that yin and yang works. There's a huge disconnect. We're naturally inclined to black and white, whereas if you combine black and white, you're always going to get gray. It's always like a gray area. You're always black swimming in white or white swimming in black. You're never or black surrounding white or white surrounding black. You're never just all black and you're never just all white. We are not. And so I implore the brothers and the sisters to think about that. Ask your guardian angel and your spirit to bring you some clarification on how that works so that you are able to have some peace about this situation because without um you know again, the whole goal is to vibrate on a high frequency. And so if you harbor anger and animosity to your brothers or to your sisters or to anybody, even to the Gentiles, if you're harboring animosity towards the Gentiles, then you're bringing in that low vibration and that low frequency. It's okay to observe and see what's going on so you can be aware in your spirit what's going on, but it's a totally different thing to relish in it, to excite in it, to be joyful at the suffering of the brothers and the sisters or the Gentiles. Because a lot of them are innocent bystanders because the if you read the Willie Lynch letter, it's also a contract against them too because they are in that aspect, they are required to always distrust black people as that's part of their contract is they can never trust us. If they trust us, then we come together and there's a whole issue. Look at what they did to Martin. Not that Martin is my favorite person. However, I have to rethink all of my thoughts about everything that I've ever thought because everything that I've ever thought it's through the lens of this contract that we were bound to. So I have to rethink about everything. And I am always constantly upgrading and updating my thought processes and checking it with the spirit to see if my old thought process was right or my new thought process is right. And, just going back and forth is, I mean, what do you think transforming the mind is? What do you think renewing your mind is? It's not, okay, I've had these thoughts for 4,000 years and I'm going to keep on with these same thought processes because this is what the most high told me. No. No, 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 no. It's like you get new information, you evaluate with the spirit, with your guardian angel, if your new information is accurate or if your old information is accurate, and you draw your conclusion from there. And so, that's the physical part of the transforming of the mind because the magic part of it is doing the baths and lighting the candles and all that. But you still have to do the physical part. You still have to go through the mental anguish of it all. You don't get out of that in the transforming and the renewing of your mind. You don't get out of the mental anguish. You still have that you have to deal with. And so, um, yeah, so the last thing I just wanted to tie up with this whole concept of the overself uh, coming down and working with you, that is not a pleasant experience. I don't, I think in the books they romanticize everything, but it's the same experience like I had when I called in the archangel. It's not pleasant. When they come in to do business. Like there is no, oh, we're just going to come in and we're going to like do this nice cute little thing for you and it's going to be pleasant. No, it's extremely unpleasant. If that's what I experienced yesterday, it's extremely unpleasant. If that's what I'm experiencing the aftermath, it's worse than a hangover off Saveka. Like worse. Like I feel like I have been drinking all night, like all day and all night yesterday, drinking and crying all day and all night. And then I woke up this morning, my eyes felt like they puffed out of my head. My head hurts so bad, like I said, like I've been drinking Saveka all night. Y'all know some or absolute, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like I just that's what it feels like. And if that is the case, this is not pleasant. So those so it's not saying that it's not necessary. I'm just saying, don't romanticize it. Know that it's going to be painful. None of this stuff is physically fun for your physical body. Like your body is not, no matter, I won't say that. This None of this stuff is physically fun for your body. No matter how pure you think your body is, this is not a physically fun thing for your body. This thing coming in, it's just like when and I wouldn't even say it literally possessed me. That's just it being here, observing it such a f- uh 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 close call to make sure just overseeing what was going on, like just directing the it's just my over self directing its attention towards me. This is a lot. This is extremely a lot. And so I want people to understand that this is not just a spiritual thing where it's everything is in your spirit or everything is in your mind. It has a physical aspect to it. And not to be afraid. I'm not saying this so that you can have fear of it, but just in your mind, don't believe the books when they say, oh, this thing is going to come in and they're going to scan you. That's just like the whole concept of them scanning people. You know, it's not pleasant to hear these frequencies in your ear from people who have described it to me. It's not pleasant having these frequencies in your ear and you hearing them for so long that you feel like you're going crazy while they're doing their scans. That's not pleasant. They make that sound like romantic. Oh, they're going to just come in and check your frequency. And you may think that they're checking your frequency, but they may also be upgrading your frequency in the process because a lot of this stuff, they make it sound like it's just they're coming to see, like Santa, checking the list, making a list and checking it twice, trying to see who's naughty or nice. No, a lot of it is, you know, they may check you to see if you're ready, and then they have to actually give you that frequency. And if they're giving you that frequency, that means you have to become comfortable with that. And that's not really a fun process because you don't know how long it's going to take to upgrade your body to that frequency. And so we may be hearing it now, like, hearing the different frequencies now, but when they come in and start doing the upgrades, nobody really talks about that part of it. Like, it could be that when they do those upgrades, you have to sit in that frequency for a very long period of time so that your DNA can be upgraded. And it's not that they're checking you, they've already checked to see that you're capable of handling it, but then they have to actually administer it. It's like when you go to the hospital. They check your vitals to see if you need fluids, and if you need fluids, then they got to come and stick you so that you can get the fluids. And that's painful when they have to stick you, but then after the fluids start to flow, then you start to feel better. So that's more like what that process is probably like, not, the way that they romanticize it in the books. I mean, there's a physical thing that you have to experience. And so I just say that because I don't want my brothers and sisters to be surprised at this type of stuff, the physical pains that go along with the spiritual upgrades. It's not just a physical thing, it's a spiritual part too. And since, this curse has been broken, we should all be ready to be elevated. I wouldn't be surprised if, you started having some of these things happen to you and your desires start to come to fruition much faster because again, like I said, we redirected those entities to rebuild our temples. And therefore, that's what they have to do. They did what Solomon said to do, it didn't they? So they have to do what we say, you know? And I won't talk about that anymore, but just look how the Holy Mother treated Solomon. That's the kind of relationship you would expect to see of the men with the mother. I just that just came into me. Just look at that. Just look at that. Just like you would So anyway, anybody's feel free to disagree with anything that I've ever said. That's not what it's about. I just deliver the message. Most of the time I have to go back and listen to what I said because literally I have no control. I'm a little bit better than Sam the illusionist because I can remain conscious, but I literally have no control. Take responsibility for everything that I say, but I don't have any control over it. And so, I hope this message, you know, reaches you all in peace. And to the spirits who are here with us, you're invited to go in peace. To my beloved viewers, you're invited to be at peace. And always remember, the Most High is your peace. Shalom.